Part 17. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 161. Strange things are really mysterious and have completely unpredictable characteristics. Different changes may occur every time. I really look forward to what my Wanchaiwu will become in the future. Lin Yi's eyes showed an eager light, just like the feeling of collecting games in his previous life. Collecting items from various games and piling them together gives a sense of accomplishment. Or in games like MC, building a kingdom of your own, working hard bit by bit. Now he is building his own Wanchaiwu, a mysterious kingdom that accommodates various strange things. With countless joys on his lips, Lin Yi began to carefully observe the maze of mind communication. He found that the maze covers an area of about 200 square meters, completely covering the underground of the Wanchaiwu. Even the secret basement under his bedroom is covered by the maze and becomes a separate maze room. The underground space in the backyard has also become part of the maze, and the structure of the entire maze is quite complicated. Lin Yi also got some information that he can integrate any existence into the maze and become a maze guard. Things sealed in the maze will be under his control, but the only flaw is that these sealed things cannot leave the maze. Once they leave the Wanchaiwu, they will be destroyed. The basis of their existence will be integrated with the maze. As long as the maze is not destroyed, they will not die. Receiving this information, Lin Yi was shocked for a moment, which means that Lin Yi's Wanchaiwu will have a stronger foundation to deal with more emergencies. After carefully understanding the information of the maze, Lin Yi left here with satisfaction. Returning to his bedroom, he began to record today's events. In the strange event book, Lin Yi wrote this task. Case number 23. Time, February 23, 2020, Red Lotus Calendar. Location, Xuanhuan Amusement Park. Event, Missing Underground Maze. A missing person appeared in the underground maze of Xuanhuan Amusement Park, and reporter Ai Ching came to issue a task. After investigation, the underground maze was made by Wu Changqing, chairman of Xuanhuan Amusement Park, and was related to strange objects. The missing person was caused by Wu Changqing or his men, and the body was hidden in the corpse room of the underground maze. Ai Ching and I exposed the internet, used official power to investigate Xuanhuan Amusement Park, and found evidence of Xuanhuan Amusement Park's crimes. Chairman Wu Changqing used the video of Ai Ching and me in his hand to find our address for revenge. In the process, he was infected by strange objects and turned into an unknown strange object and was killed by me, but Ai Ching was disabled and his condition was unknown. Mission completed, obtained strange object, underground maze model, Ai Ching's mission gold coins 100, the second set of lotus handprints lit up 61 times. Looking at the records in the event book, Lin Yi nodded with satisfaction. Another task is completed. I hope the business will flourish in the future. Putting down the pen, Lin Yi closed the event book, and lay on the bed to start a day of practice. Outside the Wanchi house, Yan Menjao looked puzzled. She was still waiting outside, looking at the very quiet Wanchi house. What's going on? Wu Changqing has been weirded out, and his obsession is revenge. Why hasn't he come yet? Is this guy so lucky? Is he awake? Full of questions, she sent a message to her companion who was responsible for investigating the situation. What's going on? Why hasn't Wu Changqing gone to Lin Yi's Wanchaiwu? Soon a message came back to her. According to Wu Changqing's information analysis, he should have been near the Wanchaiwu half an hour ago. According to the time calculation, he should be in the Wanchaiwu. I didn't see him leave the surrounding surveillance cameras. Looking at the information, Yan Menjao was more and more surprised, and she suddenly thought of a possibility. No way, could Wu Changqing have fallen into the Wanchaiwu? After thinking about it, Yan Menjao thought there was only this possibility. His expression changed constantly, and finally a sneer appeared on his face. Haha, Lin Yi, you have made a big mess this time. This Wu Changqing is obviously a researcher of the white gloves, and the strange object in his hand is probably the research result of the white gloves. You killed him, which is really asking for trouble. But it can be used, haha. Yang Menjia seemed to think of something interesting, turned and left, and disappeared into the darkness. Early the next morning, Lin Yi sat on the sofa to enjoy breakfast, and sent a message to Huang Yiming at the same time. Let him help him check which hospital Ai Ching is in. After breakfast, Lin Yi looked at his mobile phone, and Huang Yiming had sent a text message. Bed 14, number 303, Inpatient Department, Honglian Gynecology Hospital. Seeing this text message, Lin Yi was stunned. What, gynecology hospital? Why did Ai Ching go to the gynecology hospital? Countless question marks flashed in his head, and his face changed constantly. After thinking about it, Lin Yi couldn't figure out what was going on. He could only understand it when he went there. He turned around and looked at Brandy and Absinthe, who were diligently cleaning the shop. Lin Yi said to Brandy, "Brandy, the shop is left to you and Absinthe. I have something to do today, so I'll go out." Brandy nodded, "Okay, manager, don't worry." Absinthe stood at the deepest part of the lobby, his eyes full of resentment, watching Lin Yi leave. At this time, his face was calm, without any distortion. Because Brandy told him not to make strange expressions during the day, otherwise it would scare the guests. This deprived Absinthe of his happiness, and made him resent Lin Yi even more. Ring, ring, ring. Amid the sound of the welcome bell, Lin Yi left the Wanchaiwu and walked towards the Honglian Gynecological Hospital. The hospital was still some distance away from him. After wandering around for half an hour, he arrived outside the door of the Honglian Gynecological Hospital. The source of the last Ripper killer incident should have come from the pond behind the hospital. Although the news said it was a perverted killer, it was probably a scapegoat pushed out to conceal something. He didn't know whether the matter was resolved or not. Li Changhe only sent some news and nothing happened. Shaking his head, Lin Yi walked into the gate of the gynecological hospital. The first floor was the registration hall and various examination clinics. Lin Yi walked directly to the inpatient department, walked through a long corridor before arriving at the inpatient department, and asked a few nurses to find the direction. There were quite a lot of people in the Honglian Gynecological Hospital, many of whom were single women, and some came with boyfriends or husbands. Lin Yi went up to the third floor of the inpatient department and came to room 303. He saw about 6 beds inside. On one of the beds, Ai Ching, who looked ashen, was lying on the bed, looking up at the sky, as if in a daze. He was covered with a quilt, leaving only his head outside, and the whole person seemed to have no life. Looking around the room, there was only Ai Ching, and the other beds were empty. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 162. Lin Yi walked over and put a basket of fruit on the bedside table. "I heard you were attacked." Ai Ching looked at Lin Yi woodenly. Seeing that Lin Yi was fine, a surge of anger rose in his heart. An evil thought filled his heart, "Why are you okay?" But the next moment, he regained his sanity and suppressed the despicable thoughts in his heart. "This has nothing to do with others. He also reminded me that I was careless." Feeling the anger, shame, and fear of the future in his heart, Ai Ching's face became miserable. His eyes dimmed again involuntarily, and he didn't know what to say. "Yes." After a long time, he only uttered this one word. Lin Yi looked at Ai Ching's eyes and immediately noticed his initial resentment and the change in his expression. He immediately grasped the changes in Ai Ching's heart. After thinking for a while, he said, "Wu Changqing also came to see me, but he is dead. You should have a good rest. As long as you are alive, there will always be a chance." After leaving the sentence, Lin Yi did not stay for long, stood up and turned to leave. When Ai Ching heard Lin Yi's words, His whole body was shocked, and countless thoughts flashed through his mind. Dead. He is dead. Hearing that the culprit who hurt him so badly was dead, Ai Ching was a little confused for a while, and he didn't know what his mood was. The joy of the death of the great enemy, the loss after revenge, or the despair of the future. When he came to his senses, Lin Yi had left. Looking at the empty ward, Ai Ching's eyes suddenly turned red, and tears could not stop flowing. He thought of his life. He was an orphan since childhood and grew up in an orphanage. He worked hard to study and finally got into college. He worked and studied at the same time. After he came out, he became a newspaper reporter. Because he was born an orphan, he had seen too much misery and injustice. So he vowed in his heart that he must make the darkness known to the world. He wanted the world to be full of justice. He tried hard to find out all kinds of secrets and expose all kinds of shady things. He had suffered many death threats. In order to avoid death, he even invested his savings in the martial arts school to learn martial arts. In a short time, he rushed into the state of penetrating the body. Even the teacher of the martial arts school said that he was a genius and asked him to practice martial arts well. But Ai Ching, who was obsessed with justice, continued to devote himself to his journalism career more attentively after his martial arts breakthrough. He uncovered more shady cases and exposed the darkness, becoming the most famous justice reporter in Honglian City. Tears blurred his eyes, raised his hand, and Ai Ching wanted to wipe his tears. But the severe pain in his right hand made him suddenly remember that he had no fingers on his right hand. Feeling his amputated legs and the right palm without 5 fingers, Ai Ching could no longer bear it. Woo woo. Even a man of iron could not withstand this kind of pain. There was only grief and unbearable despair in his heart. Immersed in grief and despair, negative emotions grew in Ai Ching's heart. In his body, a dark green smoke was like a greedy poisonous snake. It devoured all the negative emotions in his heart. The dark green smoke grew slowly, and it might take root and sprout in the future. The painful Ai Ching was like a magnet, with a strange magic. In the Honglian Gynecological Hospital, a trace of inexplicable black and subtle resentment permeated from the air and melted into his body silently. These resentments were very subtle, each one was different, and some unformed things flashed in the resentment. After the resentment entered his body, it was quickly swallowed by the dark green smoke. The dark green smoke was like spider silk, spreading to Ai Ching's whole body. The air flowing in his body was also being integrated into this dark green smoke, making the air in his body more and more weird. After 10 minutes, Ai Ching was a little tired of crying, and the grief in his heart almost disappeared. Lying on the bed helplessly, he felt that his heart was empty, nothing. Hope, happiness, resentment, anger were gone, like an empty shell. Fatigue attacked his body, and he slowly closed his eyes and fell asleep. Ai Ching, who was asleep, didn't know that after the dark green smoke in his body absorbed all kinds of resentment, negative emotions, and qi, strange changes began to occur. It took root in Ai Ching's dantian, slowly gathered, and turned into a ring that seemed to be there and not there. The ring rotated rapidly, and the inside became more and more dark green, and finally turned into a pitch black. A trace of strange power diffused from it, flowed into Ai Ching's body, and diffused into his brain and spirit. In a psychedelic dream, Ai Ching ran in the dark with a pale face. Wu Changqing's shadow was everywhere, and he was filled with dark green light, chasing Ai Ching. From time to time, Ai Ching would be caught by Wu Changqing and then suffered inhumane torture. Waves of mental pain invaded Ai Ching. No, why, it hurt so much, go to hell, go to hell. The pain continued, Ai Ching struggled in the psychedelic dream. Every time he fainted from torture, Ai Ching would appear in the dream intact. This place has become a nightmare that cannot be left. Ai Ching's consciousness is getting clearer and clearer, but because of this clarity, the pain he suffers becomes more real. Why am I here? What exactly is this place? Why is Wu Changqing here? Didn't the manager of the Wanchai say he was dead? What's going on? What's going on? Ai Ching was going crazy, asking himself frantically. A familiar, cold, and morbid voice sounded in his ears, I found you. Countless dark green silk threads tied Ai Ching up again, and the cruel torture began again, and again. Ai Ching on the bed had a distorted face and his body was shaking. Two nurses came in from outside. They looked at Ai Ching, whose face was distorted and in pain, and shook their heads. The younger of the two nurses couldn't bear to watch, it's so tragic, how could he be tortured like this? The older one shook her head, I don't know, I guess he offended someone. He was closest to our hospital last night, so the hospital sent an ambulance there. The doctors who came back were all frightened by his miserable condition, and they could only dissect his legs after working for a long time. Not even one of the 5 fingers on his right hand could be preserved, his life is probably over. I heard that he was a reporter, and he was quite righteous, and he reported many illegal events. What a pity, good people don't live long. The young nurse heard this, and a trace of empathy and pain appeared in her eyes. At this time, the older nurse took out Ai Ching's left hand and replaced his new fore. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 163. Let's go. He looks like he's having a nightmare. We can't help him. The young nurse nodded, put away the discarded fore bottle, sighed and left the bed with her colleague. They didn't know that the conversation between the two had reached Ai Ching's ears. Even though he suffered countless tortures in the nightmare, it was so clear. I'm afraid this life is over. Good people don't get good rewards. The words filled with despair kept hitting his heart. Panting, Ai Ching's expression in the dream became more and more desperate, and a dead silence and resentment burst out from the depths of his soul. In his sea of qi, the strange power emitted by the black hole was like a venomous snake, greedily sucking the negative emotions generated in his heart. Time always passed quickly, and it was late at night in a blink of an eye. Ai Ching, lying on the bed, suddenly opened his eyes, and his eyes were deep. It was a bottomless darkness like hell. A strange smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. Justice. Kindness. Good people, they are all jokes. No one will remember justice, no one will come to help good people. Ha ha. A neurotic and weird laugh permeated Ai Ching's mouth, which was very harsh in this empty ward. Ai Ching raised his right hand and looked at his fingerless palm, his eyes full of resentment. Why? Because I have no power. At this time, the air flowing in his meridians had already changed. Dark green silk threads like solid matter flowed out of his wound. Countless filaments, like woven bags, entangled with each other and turned into 5 fingers. Looking at this weird change, Ai Ching had no expression at all. Ai Ching looked at the weird 5 fingers that suddenly appeared on his face, and only a trace of astonishment appeared in his eyes. With a move in his heart, his fingers began to move flexibly, as if they were easy and natural like instinct. It seemed that he had grown fingers again. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, a very hideous and terrifying smile. An evil thought rose in his heart, power, this is power. Ai Ching's state at this time has fallen into madness and paranoia. He struggled to sit up and lifted the blanket. Looking at his legs, cut off at the knees, the bandages were bleeding. He stretched out his right hand, and his 5 fingers became as sharp as 5 knives, cutting towards the bandages. The bandage fell off the wound, and the dried blood adhered to the wound, making his face pale with pain. But Ai Ching endured this severe pain. Compared with the countless tortures he experienced in his dreams, this pain could not shake him at all. Looking at the stitched knees of his legs, Ai Ching moved his mind, and countless dark green threads spread out from the wound. In just a few breaths, it turned into a calf. The shape of the sole of the foot. Looking at his own changes, the hideousness on Ai Ching's face showed joy, and he walked out of the desperate situation of a useless person. Slowly turning over and getting out of bed, the dark green solace of his feet touched the ground, and Ai Ching's face froze. It was the touch of a real soul, even more sensitive. After taking 2 steps, Ai Ching felt like an ordinary person, without any awkwardness, and a happy smile appeared on his face. Feeling the majestic power in his body, he seemed to be reborn. He came to the window of the ward and looked at the 2 silver moons in the sky shining. There was a trace of determination in his eyes. From today on, I will only live for myself. His eyes were full of madness and darkness. Pain and despair completely changed this once righteous reporter. A breeze swept by, and Ai Ching disappeared in the ward without anyone noticing. The Wanchai at night was very quiet today. There was no movement in the wish shrine, and no strange existence descended from the other world. Lin Yi was bored and refreshed the web page, and time passed by minute by minute. In a blink of an eye, it was 12 o'clock, and the phone rang. Ring, ring, ring. Coo, coo, coo. The time signal also echoed in the classics of the Wanchai Wu. Lin Yi shook his head. It's time to practice. Just after turning off the ringtone, his face changed, and the ground suddenly shook. A huge sound appeared out of thin air, and the whole world seemed to have changed dramatically at this moment. A red light in the sky cut through the sky, illuminating the Red Lotus realm. An endless shockwave exploded from the sky, and countless people were awakened from their sleep. An inexplicable palpitation filled everyone's heart. Lin Yi opened the door of the Wanchai Wu at the first time and looked at the sky. Circles of red shockwaves spread in the sky, and the sky seemed to be daytime, and countless clouds could be seen. At this time, they were also affected, torn apart by the impact, and a pure world appeared in the sky. The light of Lin Yi's true destiny flashed, and he immediately captured the change. A colorful light filled the eyes, which was a shockwave formed by an unimaginable energy. Full of infinite spirituality, he caught some special spiritual gatherings in the energy shockwaves scattered in the sky. They were the most dazzling things in this infinite energy, like meteors, falling in all directions of the Red Lotus realm along with the shockwaves. It was like a meteor shower, falling along the sky. The ground was still shaking, as if there was an earthquake, and the dilapidated houses were collapsing. Rumble. Smoke and dust rose up, covering the entire Red Lotus city. In the Red Lotus world, countless cities were shrouded in smoke and dust, and countless shouts were heard. At this time, Lin Yi's eyes did not pay attention to these, but captured the spiritual condensates in the sky. Instinctively, he felt that those things were definitely treasures. The treasures that appeared with this inexplicable natural disaster must have extraordinary origins. What he could see was that in the direction of Red Lotus City, 3 spiritual condensates fell into the city. These spiritual condensates seemed to have their own consciousness. After falling into Red Lotus City, they disappeared instantly. Lin Yi also lost the trace of these spiritual substances because of the obstruction of countless buildings and the various auras emitted by the people of Red Lotus City. However, he had memorized the approximate location of these spiritual polymers, one of which was not far away. In the Wanchi house, Absinthe and Brandy had already rushed out. Absinthe looked at the scene in front of him, and his eyes were intoxicated. He smelled the smell of death. As a demon-like vengeful spirit, what he liked most was death and pain. Brandy looked panicked and looked at Lin Yi. "Manager, there's an earthquake, what should we do?" Lin Yi glanced at him. "Look at your lack of ability, the earthquake won't kill you. The Wanchai Wu is strong enough, it's okay," he said, looking at Absinthe, who looked strangely excited. Shaking his head, Lin Yi looked at the area not far away, where the spiritual matter fell. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 164. At this moment, his expression changed slightly, and a mighty torrent of energy surged from the front. Only Lin Yi's true destiny can observe it, and others have no idea what happened. These energy torrents are full of spirituality, but they are as ethereal as smoke. Soon the torrent submerged Honglian city and surged in all directions. Lin Yi was in the torrent, his expression changed slightly, and the great power Vajra seal in his body instantly became active. A trace of essence was sucked into the body from the top of his head, quickly transformed into essence, and merged into the spirit pool. The trickle of water continued endlessly. In a short time, Lin Yi felt that the upper limit of his essence in his body increased by 10%. The spirit pool is 9 feet 9. When Lin Yi refines the energy of heaven and earth every day and merges it into the spirit pool, the upper limit of the essence in the spirit pool is added. For example, when he first stepped into the human immortal path, the essence in his body was only about 6 feet. Even if he used up all the essence and operated the great power Vajra seal, he could only restore the essence within a 6-foot range. If you want to increase the upper limit of the amount of essence, you must persevere in practicing the exercises every day. Only by refining the spirituality in the energy of heaven and earth can the range of essence continue to increase. The 9-foot 9 spirit pool is the limit of the body's capacity for essence. Daily practice and cultivation is to increase the essence and store more essence within this limit. Essence is just refined energy, without spiritual connotation. No matter how much you use, you can quickly recover it by practicing the exercises. The spirit pool, the limit of essence storage, and essence are 3 different things. At this time, in just a few breaths, Lin Yi felt that his essence storage limit increased by 10%, reaching 6 feet 6. This means that if this effect continues, his essence storage limit will soon reach 9 feet 9. It also means that he will step into the peak of the first level of the spirit pool of the human immortal way in a short time, and can try to step into the first level of liquid. A thought flashed through his mind, and Lin Yi knew what this meant: will the martial arts begin to fully revive? This is a big change that has not happened in countless years. Lin Yi looked at the direction where the spiritual matter descended, and a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. It looks like the spiritual tide reviving in the vernacular novels. Then the things that come with the spiritual tide reviving are definitely heaven-defying treasures. Thinking of this, Lin Yi said to Brandy, "Watch the store and don't let anyone break in to steal things." "Absinthe, you assist Brandy. Stay in the Wanchaiwu, you are not allowed to go out, and don't let anyone in." Brandy nodded quickly, "Okay, manager, where are you going?" Looking at Brandy's worried look, Lin Yi waved his hand, "Don't worry, your manager, am very cowardly." After Lin Yi finished speaking, he flashed towards the intersection of the street. Brandy looked at the direction where Lin Yi disappeared and called, "Absinthe, let's go." Ring, ring, ring. After entering the Wanchaiwu, the door quickly became quiet. At this time, the Wanchaiwu was hazy and looming, as if it would disappear from the Red Lotus realm at any time. The people on the street outside were in panic. They all ran out of their homes and had no idea what was going on. Those who knew each other started discussing, while those who didn't know each other looked around, hiding their uneasiness. But there was one thing in common: none of them noticed the Wanchaiwu, as if it had never existed. In Honglian City, in an ordinary courtyard, a man in a black Taoist robe stood on the roof. His eyes were deep, his face was feminine, and his eyes were as deep as the night sky. This person was Xingyuezi. His whole body was full of energy, and he had obviously repaired the last serious injury. His face showed a trace of solemnity, looking at the red light and impact that were dissipating in the sky. Has it begun? The real great era. The master has been waiting for countless years, and this is the era now. The immortal path is promising, and longevity can be expected. Then, I will reap the first wave of dividends first. The world is ignorant, how can I know the mystery of heaven and earth? I deserve this treasure. A bright Bagua plate appeared in his hand, and there must be a flash of light on it, pointing in a direction. Xinguez's eyes showed a trace of satisfaction, and the Taoist robe around him showed a faint black fluctuation. The next moment, he disappeared into the air, like a shadow. He jumped down and landed on a street, and Xinguez walked forward in the shadow. His footsteps were mysterious, and he flashed 3 feet without causing any fluctuations, and no one could detect it. Step by step, he moved forward in the direction indicated by the Bagua plate in his hand. At the same time, Lin Yi, who left the Wanchaiwu, came to a residential area a few hundred meters away from the Wanchaiwu. This is an old-fashioned community, most of which are small courtyards with independent doors and houses, and they are very old. The Wanchaiwu is also located near this area, and the area he is in now is called Dongming District. Lin Yi's eyes were running to the extreme, and he began to search for traces of the falling object in the sky. Everything in the world, as long as it exists, will leave traces, and nothing can escape his eyes. Even in this residential area, with countless interference from people, it cannot stop the true destiny solution from unraveling the mystery. The true destiny solution is very strange and can be operated according to Lin Yi's ideas. For example, when he wants to find some traces, even if other forces fall into his sight, they will be automatically ignored by the true destiny Daoji. No information will be passed to him. When the traces of the existence he is looking for are captured, Lin Yi will know immediately. I kept walking around this community, shuttling through the alleys, looking for any remaining traces. As most of the lotus flower in the second handprint was lit up, Lin Yi's spiritual waves became more powerful. Using this normal state, he can even maintain it for half an hour without any problems. Lin Yi still maintained the method of using the 5-second interval. Lin Yi quickly circled the outer streets of this area, but he did not find the location of the spiritual polymer. He looked at the sky. Won't this thing leave any traces? No way. Even things made of pure matter will leave traces as long as they move. At this time, Lin Yi's eyes suddenly moved and he flashed into a shadow nearby. In front of the street, a shadow is coming in this direction, very fast, a martial arts master. There was a person in the shadow, wearing a black Taoist robe, and flowing with a power that was familiar to Lin Yi. It was this force that made Lin Yi instantly aware of the other party's existence. Hey, this is the person who came to Wanchaiwu last time. I learned the Xuanhuan Sutra from him. The mysterious spiritual attack I encountered last time might have been this guy. Thinking of this, a cold light appeared in his eyes. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 165. After Lin Yi peeked at the Xuanhuan Sutra from this person, he studied it carefully. It was a method of cultivating negative energy, and the effect was also very strange. He once tried to use the true destiny solution to convert this method, but the result made him feel shocked. This method completely conflicted with the great power Vajraseal method in his body. Once it was activated, his whole body would be in severe pain, and even the spirit pool would collapse. This made him dare not change the method casually anymore, and he vaguely sensed the problem. The higher the level of practice, the more dangerous the conversion of the method. This also greatly reduced the significance of his true destiny solution to peek at the method. However, there are still some uses for peeping at the method. That is to peek at various martial arts secrets, Taoist methods, and strange power operation modes. For example, the operation method of making talismans in the Zhenling Sutra. The power operation learned from Yan Menjao formed a spirit bullet impact. The crystal arms learned from Mo Bai. There is also the operation root of the legs of Shengxingqi, which can increase some speed. This kind of purely technical means can still be used. His future path is to steal hundreds of martial arts, and finally absorb what is useful to him and form his own school. Lin Yi stared at the shadow. After understanding the power characteristics of the Xianyin Sutra, he knew that this person was definitely not a good person. Negative energy itself represents evil, and the resentment of resentful spirits is the most typical negative energy. And the probability of people who specialize in cultivating this kind of energy being good people is infinitely close to zero. Although all this is just Lin Yi's guess, at this time, guessing is enough. Xuanhuan came to this area, and a ray of spiritual light on the bagua plate in his hand pointed in a direction. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and he walked towards the direction of the spiritual light, where there was an independent courtyard. He walked over a few steps and stood in front of the door. The spiritual light on the bagua plate began to swirl, and it was obviously here. Xuanhuan nodded. The bagua plate can only point out the approximate location, and the detailed location cannot be determined. Next, it's up to me to carefully look for the treasure. Xuanhuan looked at the wall and jumped in. He landed in the garden silently and began to look around. Lin Yi looked at this scene, and his heart moved, and he followed. A flash of green light flashed in his eyes, and he passed through the wall directly and saw everything inside. Xuanhuan was like a ghost, with a pair of eyes emitting dim light. Lin Yi captured the flow of power in his eyes, and countless information quickly gathered and was understood by him. This seems to be some kind of skill that acts on the eyes, and the revolving door is used for searching. Is this guy also here to search for spiritual polymers that fell from the sky? Who is he? Why does he know this thing? Does he know what happened today? In an instant, Lin Yi thought of a lot. The essence in his body flowed, and along the technique he had just learned, he injected the essence into the meridians around his eyes. This was a complicated method of circulation, all of which involved meridians and acupoints that Lin Yi had never touched before. The next moment, Lin Yi felt a cool feeling in his eyes, and his vision changed. The world seemed to be a little clearer, and all kinds of energy became clearly visible. But soon he frowned, because this change was like the difference between kindergarten and university compared to his true destiny. His true destiny could even see the slightest fluctuations of energy particles. And this technique only allowed him to see the energy around him, not to mention the subtlety. Shaking his head, I thought it was some other technique, a weakened version of the true destiny, and only part of the function. After figuring out the secret of this eye technique, Lin Yi lost interest. He continued to circulate his true destiny, closely observing the Xuanhuan in the yard. At the same time, his eyes searched the yard. Since the other party came here, the mysterious spiritual fall was very likely here. Although Lin Yi couldn't be 100% sure that Xuanhuan came for the spiritual polymer. But now that he had no clue, it was always right to observe. The yard was about 30 square meters in size, and there was a two-story building next to the yard. However, the exterior was mottled, and many of the exterior wall paints had fallen off, and it looked quite old. On the left side of the yard was a small green garden of more than 10 square meters, which was very delicate. On the right was a stone table and two wooden chairs, which seemed to be a place for daily rest. In the innermost part of the green garden, there was an ancient well, which looked quite old. Apart from that, the yard was empty and there was nothing. At this time, the small building in the yard was brightly lit, and several figures were swaying in the windows, constantly looking outside, obviously alarmed by the huge changes just now. Lin Yi glanced and confirmed their identities, a couple in their 30s, and two children. Xuanhuan was in the yard, but he was illusory, and the family in the small building could not see him at all. Many people also came out on the street one after another, looking around and asking each other what happened. The Prime Minister's residence of the Red Lotus Empire was in a tense atmosphere, and ministers from all walks of life in the empire had come. In a meeting room in the Prime Minister's residence. Prime Minister Donggong Taiyu sat at the top. He looked like a man in his 50s, with a neutral face and a majestic look. Deputy Prime Minister Qian Madong looked at Donggong Taiyu and said, "Prime Minister, the Ministry of Science has just sorted out the current information and sent a message." Donggong Taiyu nodded and said, "Let's release it so that everyone can see it." The people sitting in the meeting room of the mansion were all the most powerful people in the Red Lotus Empire, the nobles and the superiors of this era. A holographic projection appeared in the center of the round table in the meeting room. This is a beautiful woman, wearing a white coat, who looks about 30 years old. A pair of gold-rimmed glasses, long hair to the waist, exuding a bookish atmosphere, beautiful appearance and flaming red lips are just like her. Her face is cold, and her eyes seem to have wisdom that sees through everything. The president of the Imperial Academy of Sciences, Xuanhuan, the younger sister of the head of the Huang family. She looked at Donggong Taiyu, "Prime Minister, according to our inspection stations in various places and the information recorded in the ancient stone tablets, the huge changes just now should be similar to the first world change 3 years ago. This is the second world change spiritual explosion. According to the shockwave detection of the explosion point just now, the concentration of spirituality in the air has increased by 1000%. The prophecy is true, and the era of practice has arrived. We must put the research on the entire system of martial arts practice on the agenda as soon as possible. At the same time, accelerate the popularization of martial arts and select high-quality seeds for cultivation. This is the only way we can completely counter the weird side. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 166. If we don't do this, there will be many talented people rising up in the empire, and the heroes will break the law with martial arts, which will inevitably cause great damage. The ancient balance of power will also be broken. We must take the initiative to bring the real geniuses into the imperial system and make them one of us. Huang Qinyan's voice was cold, describing things that affected countless people. Donggong Taiyu nodded and looked at many ministers. All of you are pillars of the empire, I won't say much about the others. I believe everyone is very clear about the horror of the strange test. The empire now consumes most of its energy to maintain the situation. It has to reach various agreements with many strange forces, which greatly weakens the empire's control over the Red Lotus realm. Now, according to Dean Huang Qinyan's research, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Do you have any objections to the last proposed plan to spread martial arts among the people? Each of these ministers in the empire has various forces behind them, otherwise they would not be able to sit in this position. The plan to spread martial arts was proposed by the empire after the world changed 3 years ago, when extraordinary strong people appeared in the cultivation path. However, the knight violated the law by using martial arts, and the power increase was not strong enough. It might shake the forces behind these people, so it was blocked and could not pass the parliament. But this time the world changed. Huang Qinyan's research data will not lie. This means that even if they stop the plan to spread martial arts in the world, strong people will eventually appear and disrupt all their patterns. Everyone's breath was solemn, and they began to think about the seriousness of this matter secretly. Deputy Prime Minister Qian Madong flashed a trace of silence on his face, and slowly spoke. "Prime Minister, this matter is of great importance. Let everyone take 3 days to consider it. Propose it in the parliament after 3 days, and then we will know the result." Donggong Taiyu saw that many ministers fell into silence, and knew that this matter could not be rushed. He nodded and said, "Today's meeting ends here. The second change in the world has occurred. We don't have much time left. There are strange people outside, and there are powerful people in the family. Our rights come from strength. Rights without strength are like castles in the air. Think about it carefully. Dismissed, Dong Gong Taiyao looked at the ministers indifferently. As the ministers left, Deputy Prime Minister Qian Madong did not leave. He looked at Dong Gong Taiyao. Prime Minister, on behalf of the Qian family, I am interested in investing in the Donggong Research Institute of the Donggong family. I don't know what the Prime Minister thinks. Donggong Taiyao narrowed his eyes and fell on Qian Madong. Qian Madong, a member of the Qian family in Honglian City. An ancient family, with a lot of wealth, and there are also strong people on the strange side in the family. At the same time, after the world changes, the family that actively participates in martial arts research, I don't know what results the research has produced. Some information about the Qian family flashed through Donggong Taiyao's mind, and he smiled at Qian Madong. If you want to join the Donggong Research Institute, you need to pay a lot of price. If you can get the martial arts talent research results of the Donggong Research Institute, this price is nothing. Donggong Taiyao nodded. Okay, let the Donggong family and the Qian family discuss this matter. The Deputy Prime Minister smiled slightly and left the meeting room. Donggong Taiyao looked at the empty meeting room with an indifferent expression, and a figure shrouded in green light walked out from beside him. This person was wearing a green Taoist robe, with a face like a crown jade and skin as white jade. Sword-like eyebrows and star-like eyes, a full forehead, and a head of black hair casually scattered, the whole person was filled with a chic and elegant temperament. You see, these guys are not easy to deal with. Even now they are still thinking about power, it's not so easy to complete the military deployment plan. But the Qian family seems to want to turn to us. The Qian family, the third of the top 10 families, controls most of the agriculture in Honglian City. It is still possible to get support from the Qian family. But at that time, we may have to give them some real things. The mysterious Taoist's faint voice sounded, "Don't worry, Prime Minister. Under my leadership, the Donggong Research Institute has enough things to attract anyone, don't worry about this." Now the master asked me to bring the latest news to the Prime Minister. Donggong Taiyao raised his eyebrows when he heard the words, and sat up straight, obviously attaching great importance to it. The longevity pill you asked for has been approved by the sect meeting. At the same time, the headmaster also intends to teach you the true method of longevity. Donggong Taiyao's body shook slightly when he heard the words, and the worry in his heart was completely put down. Okay, your master has shown enough sincerity, and I will return it with enough sincerity. 3 years ago, after the first world change, the mysterious man in front of him came to him. The power displayed by the other party was unpredictable, and he came to his bedroom silently. He was guarded by someone, who was one of the few strong men in the Red Lotus Empire who mastered the strange power. Although he was not the best in the strange calculation, he was definitely not bad. But they still didn't notice the arrival of this person, which made him feel shocked. The other party came with the intention of cooperation, allowing Donggong Taiyao to see the vastness of the world and broaden his horizons unprecedentedly. Feeling the power flowing in his body, his heart became calmer. The events in the Prime Minister's mansion soon began to spread among the upper echelons of the Red Lotus realm. Undercurrents were surging, and a game was about to unfold. At the Sakuramiya family residence, Sakuramiya Shirley, Sakuramiya Kangxiu, and the head of the Sakuramiya family were all sitting in the hall. The head of the Sakuramiya family had a solemn expression on his dignified face. This time the world change is very serious. Various forces are in operation. As one of the big families in the Red Lotus realm, our Sakuramiya family must be careful. Wait a minute, I will activate the Sakuramiya family to enter the first level of alert, and the ultimate force of the Sakuramiya family will be activated. Each of you will get a team. But you must remember that this is the ultimate power, and you must take it seriously. Yes, Grandpa. Yes, Father. A few minutes later, Sakuramiya surely returned to her bedroom. After closing the door, her face moved, and she walked to her dressing table. In the vase on the dressing table, there was a delicate pure white rose that looked like crystal. At this time, the rose was emitting a faint light, and an illusory little man emerged from the pure white rose. It was a beautiful woman, wearing a plain Taoist robe, with long black hair hanging down, and exuding an inexplicable Taoist charm. A red cinnabar mole on her forehead made her look even more majestic. After seeing this illusory little woman, Sakuramiya Swili's face became serious and she said respectfully, "Master. The house of everything I created." Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 167. The illusory woman's eyes fell on Shirley Sakuramiya and nodded slightly. Sydney, the second world change has occurred. The great changes are about to begin, and the sect will also come out later. The sect will send someone to contact you when the time comes, and you must receive them properly. It has been 3 years since you joined our 100 Flowers Immortal section. Now that the world has changed for the second time, you have a great opportunity. What opportunity? Shirley Sakuramiya looked at her master with some confusion. The woman smiled slightly and said, "The second world change is called spiritual storm. This time the spirituality of the Red Lotus world will skyrocket, and when the world changes, a large amount of spirituality will appear, and in this process, a large amount of spirituality will gather and become something called a spiritual source. Once you can access that, and integrate that spiritual source into your body, the benefits are endless. Not only can you quickly break through the spiritual pool realm, but it can also increase your potential. Human potential is limited. When some people reach a certain level and their potential is exhausted, they will be stuck in the same place. In the end, the consequences will inevitably be miserable. Things with increased potential are hard to find in thousands of watts, so you have to get one. I will teach you a method now. You can use this method to find the spiritual source closest to you. Listen carefully. In a few minutes, Sakuramiya surely already understood this method. The illusory woman looked at Shirley Sakuramiya. The more spiritual sources there are, the better. The more you get, the deeper your roots are and the higher your future achievements will be. Shirley Sakuramiya nodded upon hearing this. "Thank you, Master, for your guidance. Please rest assured, I will arrange everything." The illusory woman nodded and disappeared in the next moment. The pure white rose also dimmed and returned to its original state. In Yinzhong Zhangxiu's bedroom, a black-robed shadow appeared in front of him. "Yinzhong Zhangxiu, my Kishan Xie sect is about to be born, and there will be disciples coming into the world in the future. You have to receive them well, do you know that?" Sakuragong Zhangxiu smiled slightly. "Don't worry, sir, I know how to do it." In the Sakura Palace family, the two direct descendants seem to have unknown connections with the mysterious sect. In the headquarters of the Men in Black, in a mysterious underground conference room, more than a dozen mysterious people gathered here. Among them is Yinswili, the director of the blood department, who is a master of the immortal Dao himself. At this time, sitting at the head of the conference room was a mysterious middle-aged man who looked to be in his 30s. His whole body was filled with an extremely terrifying aura, which was at least 5 times more powerful than Yin Shueli's. The energy and blood are flowing like a furnace. Just seeing him makes people feel dazzling. Headquarters of the Men in Black, Bai Hai Shui. Bai Hai Shui glanced at everyone in the conference room. This change in the world is about to trigger an unknown situation. We Men in Black are the Empire's force specializing in dealing with these supernatural matters. I'm afraid we will be very busy next time. Now I allow each of you to go to the warehouse to pick up a set of strange objects and equip yourself to deal with the next danger. Everyone, get ready. At the same time, you will also go to Honglian 13 provinces in person to take charge. Yes, sir, voices sounded one after another, and everyone looked solemn. There is a small city here in the unknown mysterious space. The whole town is made of blue bricks and stones, and is filled with a strange atmosphere. From time to time, you can still see some strange shadows appearing in this small town. But in the next moment, he will be shot down by the mysterious power in the small town and turn into ashes and disappear. There are not many people in the city. Everyone is wearing a black robe and walking on the street with a serious expression. A tall tower is located in the city. On the top observatory, an old man who looks to be in his 70s or 80s stands here. He looked up at the sky, where there was a strange darkness, as if something was surging, but also as if there was nothing. An illusory shadow appeared next to him. It was a 40-year-old middle-aged man wearing a white coat. He had a majestic face and looked very holy. "President, what did you see?" The old man turned to look at the white coat, who spoke out, "Dean, we have to be careful. I have seen wars, countless wars sweeping across. An ancient force is coming, an enemy we have never seen before. It's not the strangeness of another world, but the ancient creatures that originally existed in the Red Lotus world. The person called the director is the leader of the hospital, and the old man in front of him is one of the three strange side forces. The president of the Weird Association, a mysterious and powerful man." The dean frowned when he heard this. "Haha, ancient creatures. The strange power is infinite and vast, and we don't need to be afraid of anyone." The president continued to look toward the sky and said in a low voice, "This time the world changes have a big impact, and more cracks in the other world have appeared. We're going to get busier, and the old madman with the white gloves is going to do something." The dean's face turned solemn upon hearing this. What exactly does the old madman want to do? Does he really want to destroy the world? The president shook his head. "I don't know. He hides it too deeply. No one knows what he wants to do. Pay attention, what happens next is not that simple." There were undercurrents surging everywhere in the Red Lotus realm, but Lin Yi didn't know all this, and it had nothing to do with him. Standing outside the courtyard, watching Xingyu as he entered the small building, searching for something, Lin Yi couldn't help but frown. Where is the mysterious spiritual polymer? I can't find it. No matter how big it is, there is no trace. Can it avoid the true destiny solution? It shouldn't be possible. Lin Yi has almost 100% trust in the true destiny solution. This is the conclusion he came to after countless attempts. When he fully operates the true destiny solution, he can even detect the spirituality contained in the air energy. The polymer composed of pure spirituality should never escape his sight. Thinking, could it be that this spiritual polymer is hidden in a very secret place, beyond the observation range of my true destiny solution? The mysterious person found this courtyard, assuming that this thing is in this family's courtyard. Then where here can escape the observation range of my true destiny solution? Thinking of this, Lin Yi's eyes fell on a corner of the courtyard. Where? Thinking of this, he walked into the alley next to the courtyard. The noisy family in the small building seemed to have calmed down and gathered in the living room on the second floor. Xingyu as it was searching for something on the first floor, searching every corner bit by bit. Lin Yi's whole body was full of energy, and he lightly climbed over the wall and landed in the small garden in the yard. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 168. He squatted down slightly and hid in the shadow of the vegetation. After a few steps, we arrived at the wellhead of the small garden. Looking inside, it was pitch black. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward arrow. The interpretation of the true destiny in his eyes reached its limit, and he instantly caught a bright light shining at the bottom of the well. Sure enough, this guy is here to find the spiritual polymer. Looking at the light in the well, Lin Yi turned over and entered the well. The hands were filled with essence, and like steel knives, they were easily inserted into the well wall. Like a gecko, he climbed down into the well and reached the surface of the ancient well in less than a minute. Lin Yi did not stop, but continued to climb along the well wall, entering the water silently. He looked down and saw that the light was still there. Taking a deep breath, Lin Yi completely sank into the water. As his energy circulated, he felt as if his skin was extracting oxygen from the water. There was a thought in my heart: the movement of essence at the human immortal Dao level can extract oxygen from water? This is really amazing. Feeling the comfort of not having to breathe underwater at all, Lin Yi felt a sense of joy in his heart. Looking down, the bottom of the well was still about 10 meters away. As soon as his body moved, he swam towards the bottom of the well. He dived very quickly and reached the bottom of the well in just a few seconds. A round object the size of a fist and made entirely of mysterious spirituality appeared in his sight. His eyes swept around, and in the flash of green light, he saw the whole bottom of the well. On the left is a water channel that leads to nowhere. Countless wells gush out from here. He could vaguely see the fluidity of the well water, and a trace of black resentment permeating the well water. Hey, resentment, is this well water connected to somewhere? Lin Yi couldn't help but frowned when he thought of this, but he gave up his thoughts the next moment. It has nothing to do with me, let's just watch this thing first. He lowered his head and wiped away the spiritual polymer at his feet, and lightly touched it with his right hand. Something amazing happened. The moment Lin Yi touched it, the spirit melted like liquid. It quickly covered Lin Yi's palm and penetrated from the skin into the body. Lin Yi was startled, his true destiny interpretation was running in his eyes, and he saw everything that happened in an instant. After this spiritual source penetrated his palm, it quickly integrated into the meridians and spread along the meridians toward his spiritual pool. During this process, Lin Yi obviously found that his meridians had become much more flexible after spiritual spread. There were mysterious changes in the meridians, and there was a clear feeling of spirituality. Seeing that his body did not change for the worse, Lin Yi simply did not resist and watched quietly. Like a swallow returning to its nest, the spirit quickly fell into the spirit pond. Then the spirit became visible to the naked eye, quickly dissolved in the spirit pool, and became invisible and integrated into the organs of the spirit pool. This spirituality was still spreading to Lin Yi's meridians throughout his body, and an unprecedented sense of comfort pervaded from his meridians. The next moment, Lin Yi was more aware of his surroundings, and the energy fluctuations in the air seemed to be nearly twice as clear. It took a full 5 minutes for this change to stop, and Lin Yi's whole body trembled and he completely woke up. Looking at himself, his meridians and spiritual pool were all exuding dazzling spiritual brilliance. Far greater than before, at least among the countless people Lin Yi had observed, he had never seen anyone whose meridians were brighter than his own. Is this the role of spiritual polymers? Integrating into meridians and spiritual pool seems to increase my ability to sense the energy around me. Moreover, my energy limit seems to have reached its limit. Countless golden energy particles around him were sucked into Lin Yi's body, rapidly filling Lin Yi's empty spiritual pool. The 9'9" spiritual pool was completely filled in a few minutes. The lingering energy like green smoke filled the spiritual pool, making him feel a sense of fullness throughout his body. Lin Yi felt that his upper limit of power output seemed to have increased by 30%. For the human body, if the power of the spiritual pool is 10, then the upper limit of the human body's instant burst of power may be. The upper limit of force output is restricted by various physical qualities of the human body. In the past, Lin Yi could only explode with 1 power, but now he can explode with 3 power. There is no doubt that this will greatly enhance his combat effectiveness and make him even more powerful. But this was just traditional martial arts training. When Lin Yi came into contact with the Jendi seal, he discovered something else. That is what seems to be a magic weapon, which can make the explosive power exceed the limits of the human body. For example, the earth-suppressing seal can contain 20% of Lin Yi's body's essence and burst out 20% of his combat power. At that time, Lin Yi understood the principle that if you want to do your job well, you must first sharpen your tools. The weapon allows humans to unleash combat power beyond their physical limitations. Lin Yi felt the changes in his body, and his face was filled with joy. At this time, Lin Yi looked up at the mouth of the well, where the sky was completely dark. Da-da-da. There was a vibrating sound of footsteps coming quickly towards the well, and my heart moved. Lin Yi's figure flashed and entered the waterway next to him. Looking from the well mouth to the well water, Xuanhuan's eyes showed a cold light. What happened? Why did the spiritual fluctuations disappear? Could this spiritual source still escape? Xuanhuan looked at the Bhagwa disc in his hand, with anger and confusion in his eyes. But he soon calmed down, looking at the calm water in the well, and fell into deep thought. Suddenly, his eyes fell on the wall of the well, and then a burst of anger rose from his heart. Damn, this is a new trace, someone intercepted? Who is following me? Where is he? Is he still at the bottom of the well? Thinking of this, he looked around the well mouth. There was no water stain, and obviously no one came out from inside. Well, there are really blind people who come to rob my beard. Although I don't know which sect you are from, but since you are here, prepare to die. With unprecedented anger and coldness in his eyes, Xuanhuan took out a black bottle from his arms. On his handsome face, a cold smile appeared, and a trace of black powder fell from the bottle. At this time, Lin Yi's fate at the bottom of the well opened, and he saw Xuanhuan's actions at the well mouth through the wall of the well. I was shocked. Damn it, he found out. It's impossible to rush out now. I'm in the well, so I'm trapped in a trap. And this man is much stronger than me. I don't know what it spilled, let's get out of here first. Thinking of this, Lin Yi swam towards the waterway behind him. He was very fast, no slower than a fish in the water, and drew an undercurrent in the waterway. In the well water, along with the black powder blending in, a black death aura quickly spread into the water. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 169. Xuanhuan stood at the mouth of the well, with a cold smile in his eyes. The Black Death Plague, even if you are a strong man of the human immortal Dao, you will die if you are infected. Just enjoy it. If you dare to steal my things, you must die. At this time, the Bhagwa plate in his hand started to rotate rapidly, pointing to a new direction, which immediately attracted his attention. Anything else? This is really lucky. There is actually a spiritual source falling in Honglian City. I can't fail again this time. The figure flashed and left here. The Black Death Plague in the well spread rapidly, and Lin Yi had already advanced hundreds of meters along the waterway below. In the True Destiny solution, everything in the dark waterway was clearly visible. Even a stream of water that was getting bigger and bigger appeared in his sight. He looked back, and the True Destiny solution penetrated the winding waterway rock wall. He saw a black thing spreading in the well water and spreading towards the waterway. Lin Yi was shocked. Good fellow, this guy is really vicious. What kind of highly toxic substance is this? Have you discovered my existence? I'll settle accounts with you next time. He slid his hands and swam faster to the front of the waterway. After advancing more than 100 meters again, the exit of the waterway seemed to be reached. There was a turbulent water flow. Lin Yi stopped swimming and stood at the exit of the waterway. With a flash of green light in his eyes, he looked outside. A dark river about tens of meters wide and a river channel about 10 meters high. The river water flowed from the left to the right at a very fast speed, which surprised Lin Yi slightly. At the same time, he saw a wisp of dark resentment coming from the upper reaches of the river. Looking behind him, the black was spreading towards here, and it was less than 10 meters away from his position. Without time to think, he looked at the water flow, and directly inserted his hands into the rock wall outside the exit and moved towards the upper reaches of the dark river. Going upstream, against the surging undercurrent, he quickly moved away from the well water cave. When he was 10 meters away from here, a black color spread out from the waterway. However, it was washed away by the undercurrent the moment it appeared. But the black color seemed endless and kept floating out of the waterway. Lin Yi looked at the scene and frowned. Wait for this black thing to be washed away by the dark river? It feels like it will take a long time. Or continue to go upstream to see if there are other exits. Honglian City used to drink well water, there should be other wells. Thinking of this, Lin Yi made a decision and moved upstream along the dark river. He was very fast, and his eyes kept searching the dark river. After advancing a few hundred meters, he frowned, and the resentment in the dark river became heavier. The river water was getting colder and colder, which made him feel bad. Isn't it so unlucky that I encounter resentful spirits everywhere? Is my soul absorbing physique? Lin Yi couldn't help but be speechless, and the light of the true destiny solution shone brightly, looking towards the upper reaches of the dark river. A vague black mass appeared in his sight. The dark river was dark, with the most black and blue lights. It was difficult for the true destiny Dog in its normal state to completely distinguish various energies and auras. Only after Lin Yi increased the spiritual wave consumption of the true destiny Dog could he observe everything more accurately. Looking at the strange black mass in front of him, it was clearly a mass of black resentment. A vague shadow flickered in the resentment, and it was obviously the source of the resentment. Lin Yi frowned and continued to climb upstream against the impact of the dark river. After climbing 1,000 meters, he came to the location of the resentment mass, and then he saw clearly what it was. It was a cement block poured with cement. It was 3 or 4 cubic in size, and was located at the bottom of the dark river. In Lin Yi's eyes, he could see what was inside. Those were several corpses with their internal organs emptied, and the strong resentment was spreading from here. Are they the bodies being processed? Lin Yi was thinking, and his eyes looked forward, and there seemed to be such cement blocks in front. Obviously this was not a one-time event, but someone had been dealing with these bodies. The resentment enveloped this dark river, and the cold river water made Lin Yi feel cold, and the consumption of his energy in his body accelerated. Lin Yi frowned. I can't stay here any longer, since these things were thrown here. It must have floated down from upstream. Where is the exit? Looking at the huge cement blocks that kept appearing, Lin Yi guessed that the exit was not far from here. These cement blocks were filled with resentment, and maybe they would change at any time. Especially at this special time point, the changes in heaven and earth caused huge spiritual changes. Climbing quickly upstream, Lin Yi didn't notice it at this time. With his arrival, it seemed to stimulate these corpses. In the corpses sealed by cement, the resentment quickly condensed, and a trace of strange breath inexplicably appeared in these corpses. With the appearance of strange breath, these resentments were quickly swallowed up and merged into the corpses. The corpses of each cement block seemed to be merging with each other. Soon, a few minutes passed, and Lin Yi saw a place with light. Exit, good luck. The entrance to the cave is above, and a large amount of water is constantly rushing down, like a waterfall. Lin Yi climbed up along the wall of the underground river, and finally escaped from this strange underground river after a minute. At this time, he was at the bottom of a river. His eyes looked around and suddenly froze. Is this the bottom of the river? There is only one big river in Honglian City, the Blue River. If it is here, it is logical that these cement blocks would appear here. At this time, he was less than 5 meters away from the bank of the Blue River. He swam a few times and reached the shore. The Blue River in Honglian City has been transformed long ago, and the river bank is very beautifully built. If Lin Yi wants to get to the shore, he must climb up along the river bank. Feeling the 10-meter-high river bank, Lin Yi sighed and then climbed up quickly. A minute later, Lin Yi stood on the river bank, all wet. Looking at the missing railing here and the slums with sewage flowing beside the river bank, he knew where he was. The slums in the north of the city, no wonder there are those cement-sealed corpses below. Nothing is strange here. Shaking his head, Lin Yi left here quickly. As for the corpses in the dark river, it had nothing to do with him. At most, he could notify Li Changhe or Huang Yiming, and someone would naturally come to solve the problem. Just a few minutes after Lin Yi left the river, a figure wrapped in a dark aura crawled out of the blue river. This person looked to be about 20 years old, wearing tattered clothes. His face was ordinary, but his eyes were full of resentment and anger. The whites of his eyes were completely black, and a deep voice came out of his mouth, containing boundless resentment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 170. I will kill you, I want revenge. He kept mumbling in a low voice, while walking towards the slums in front. He seemed to be just the first one, and 4 or 5 figures crawled out of the blue river one after another. The slums were dark. These figures merged into it and disappeared like water drops. The streets outside the slums were full of people, some of them were chatting with others with panic. Some looked at some houses with cracks in horror. The great changes tonight affected everyone, and no one knew what was going on. Lin Yi was soaked, but no one noticed him at night. About half an hour later, he had returned to the Wanchaiwu. Ring, ring, ring. Brandy looked at Lin Yi who had returned and said in surprise, "Manager, you're back." Absinthe on the side pulled the corner of his mouth, and muttered in a voice that only he could hear, "It would be great to die." The voice was not loud, but Lin Yi naturally heard it clearly, and glared at Absinthe, "Shut up, you." He glanced at Brandy and said, "I'm going to change clothes, you should go to bed too, there shouldn't be anything to do today. Let's see what the news says tomorrow." Absinthe pursed his lips and walked towards his room. This night was destined to be chaotic. The night police officers of Honglian City had already appeared and began to maintain order in the entire city. After washing up, Lin Yi sat cross-legged on the bed. Feeling the flow of power in his body, with one breath, the energy between heaven and earth fell from his head like raindrops. The countless essences in the spirit pool turned and swallowed these energies, and soon the essence in his body was replenished. The Yiling Jing was also practiced once, and it was already 4 o'clock in the morning. At this moment, Lin Yi suddenly had an idea and opened his eyes. The strange child appeared in front of him, and Lin Yi frowned. Today is really a troubled time. Feeling the essence of the spirit pool in his body, he clenched his fists. It's just right to test my current strength. Turning over, Lin Yi walked towards the kitchen. At the entrance of the underground passage, in the maze passage below, a deep and strange breath was rolling. It was a strange breath that was gradually descending, and a small part of it leaked at this time, which made Lin Yi feel it. This time, it seems to be a big guy. Thinking of this, a smile appeared on his face. I can't wait to come and die. Da. Following the stairs leading to the underground, Lin Yi came to the underground maze. What he saw was the dark green passage, and the image of the entire maze flashed in Lin Yi's mind. The next moment, he had determined the place of the change. With the thought, accompanied by a layer of dark green light, Lin Yi disappeared from the spot and came to the location where the problem occurred. In this underground maze, Lin Yi can move anywhere. The problem is at the corner of a passage. The wall here is twisting, and a dark 3-fingered palm is extending from it. It is tearing the barrier of the maze wall and wants to enter this world. Lin Yi's eyes looked at this arm, and the true destiny flashed in his eyes. Is it the breath fluctuation of the level of human immortal? About the same as my strength. Okay, it's okay for practice. At this moment, Lin Yi's face suddenly became serious, and the second abnormal fluctuation appeared in the Wanqi house. Without any hesitation, he immediately said to the air, "You go and eliminate the invaders." Absinthe's 5 summons quickly disappeared in the underground maze and went to the backyard of the Wanqi house. The ground there is changing, and a humanoid weird thing covered with black muscles is crawling out of the mud on the ground. It is covered with dark muscle fibers, and there is no skin or flesh. The facial features are distorted, without eyes, ears, mouth, nose, and tongue, only dark muscles. There was also a strange twisted face on the chest, and a mouthful of teeth hung on this twisted face. Its body was covered with a layer of twisted soil, which looked like the soil bound it and prevented it from crawling out. But it was obviously some kind of space barrier that blocked it. It looked like the soil was twisted, but it was actually the space that was twisted. Absinthe and other 5 figures stood around it, among which the purple corpse monster had the strongest aura. Their eyes stared straight at the black muscle monster, which was filled with human immortal level fluctuations, rising in waves. Hoo. In the heavy breathing, the twisted space was broken, and the soil was instantly scattered. A black figure rushed out from the ground. It was a huge black muscle monster that was 3 meters tall. As soon as he appeared, the purple corpse monster rushed up and grabbed the other's head with both hands. The black muscle monster also stretched out his 2 hands and intercepted the purple corpse monster with both hands. Bang! With a huge muffled sound, the 2 palms collided with each other, and the terrifying power broke out at the same time. The ground beneath his feet sank an inch, and the 2 behemoths competed in strength. The purple corpse monster seemed to be a little weaker, and his body began to tremble slowly. His muscles were shaking wildly, and it seemed that he could not hold on for much longer. At this time, corrosive smoke had already spread out of the bad doctor's body, covering the black muscle monster. The 2-headed dog sprayed black fire and black ice at the opponent's feet, igniting and freezing the opponent's legs. The tentacles of the strange child, which were filled with black smoke, completely wrapped the body of the black muscle monster. Absinthe opened his mouth and sprayed out strong resentment. They spread into the body of the black muscle monster, as if they were rotting the inside of the black muscle monster. The black muscle monster was instantly in a desperate situation. With various forces attacking it, its body began to have problems quickly. The muscles were constantly rotting, charring, or collapsing, bit by bit, as if they were cramped and skinned. It was filled with strange power, shaking its arms wildly, trying to get rid of the restraints of the purple corpse monster. But although the purple corpse monster was also trembling all over, and even crackling under the opponent's huge force, but he firmly grasped the opponent's hands, making the black muscle monster unable to get rid of it. In the underground maze, Lin Yi watched the illusory black shadow struggling to climb out of the dark green wall. The earth seal rose in his arms, infusing a large amount of essence and spiritual waves, and at the same time, he pinched the demon seal. The monster in front of him was obviously some kind of illusory monster, and the effect of physical attack would not be ideal. He used the demon seal at the spiritual level and looked at the dark green wall that was constantly twisting. Lin Yi's eyes became more and more solemn, quietly waiting for the moment when the other party broke through the restraints.